Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, episode 934 overall. Hope everybody out there is enjoying your weekend. As we are up to season 3, episode 7 of the epic hit series Snowfall, with the episode A Pocket Full of Rocks. This was a very powerful episode. A lot happened in this episode as we lead up to one of the more just historic episodes of the show. In episode 8, this was a perfect prelude up into that episode. Quick recap: Franklin and Leon search for Melody. Gustavo fixes a problem, and Julia gives Teddy a proposition. Some themes: reap what you sow. That certainly was the case in this episode in regards to Franklin. This is the first episode where Franklin's actions hit home in a major way, and hit him in a way that he did not see coming nor expected it. We'll definitely flush out. We'll definitely flush that out over the course of this episode, in particular the deep dive. We begin. Matter of fact, we'll begin with the deep dive. Melody. So Melody gets hooked on the rock. We see her at the party in this episode. At the beginning, we see her at the party. She hooks up with a dude, which leads her to getting some rock. She has money with her. She gets some more rock, even as she refuses to reciprocate sexually with the guy Maurice, with the guy that she hooked up with at the party. So she gets some more rock, and this turns into basically a episode long ordeal where she is chasing drugs throughout the course of the episode. She gets connected with Wanda, which is never a good thing. Which is never a good thing if you're trying to get your life in order. So she gets connected with Wanda, and we're talking about a girl who, Melody's character has been over the first 3.5 seasons, kind of not a square, but the kind of the girl that messed with the bad boy, but always had college in her mind, and straight A student, not really a rebel per se. Franklin was her first love. Yeah, she still was hooking up, she still, was hooking up with Franklin despite what was going on between Franklin and Andre. But still, Melanie was not the type. Melanie was the type that if I had told you this was going to happen, Melanie would have been the last person, one of the last characters I thought that this would happen to. The Wanda thing, you can kind of see. You're not surprised with Wanda. She was in the business. She's working at a crack house, at a cookhouse. So that wasn't, she's in the business. She's part of the, Franklin's organization. Melody, I did not see this coming with her. And, you see, Franklin really, and is one of the scenes I should have probably put it in best scenes, but you see at the end of the episode, as Franklin, in essence, takes her out the crack house, and returns it back to Andre, and then you see him discuss with his mom, what the deal was, and he basically says, "Hey, nah, she's on rock now," and that guilt that Franklin has to deal with is next level guilt. I thought this episode did a phenomenal job at really tapping into that guilt of someone who's a drug kingpin. We know Franklin can be cold blooded. We know he's a sociopath. We know how intelligent he is. We know with these drug kingpins, a lot of times you wonder if they are like robots in a sense in terms of how they have to maneuver over the course during the course of their lives and the types of decisions that they have to make, the terrible things that they have to do day in and day out. Franklin's all those things, but this episode, in particular with Melody, this hits Franklin hard. This hits him hard. He knows that this is on him. That there's nobody else to blame but him. He can't blame Andre. He can't blame the government. He can't blame anybody. He can only blame himself because Melanie is someone he truly cared about. He would play a tough role. I know that they weren't as close as they once were as far as dating and things of that nature, but he loves Melanie. I mean, they've been known they grew up in the same neighborhood, uh, and you know he this is something that this is something that is absolutely squarely on him, and he knows that it's on him. And there's a scene in there's a scene in movie I'm thinking about now because I got watched a couple of gangster movies over the break over the holiday. But there's a scene, okay, the American Gangster. So there's a scene with Frank Lucas, with Ti, Frank Lucas's nephew Stevie. So Stevie was supposed to be a baseball prospect, right? He was supposed to be a major league baseball prospect. Threw the ball 95 miles an hour. Frank Lucas, of course, had all the connections. Got him a tryout with Billy Martin. This is when Billy Martin was the manager of the Yankees back in the day. I want to say the 70s. It's probably early mid to late 70s, sometime during the 70s. And Stevie walks up to Frank and tells Frank Lucas, because he didn't show up for a tryout, says, "I don't want to play baseball no more." And Frank Lucas is like, what are you talking about? You've been playing since you're a little boy. I got you to try out. This is what I had in mind for you. And Stevie says, who's getting played by Ti, says, "I want what you want. I want, I want to be you, Uncle Frank. I want what you want." Now, in that scene, there was so much ground that they had to cover in American Gangster. It's almost 3 hours long, but and Denzel plays this masterfully. You could see the disappointment on his face because he knows that he's never going to be Frank Lucas. He's going to end up dead or in jail. He knows. I mean, but more importantly, he knows that I didn't want this for you. I wanted you. You were supposed to go play baseball. Well, Franklin did not want that for Melanie. Melanie was supposed to go to college, Spelman, straight A student. He never like those other, Wanda chose what she chose. Leon chose what he chose. His family, they chose the game. They chose what they chose. You can go down the line. Jerome, Louis, most of the people in Franklin's life that he's connected to chose that life. Melody didn't choose that life. Melody did not choose that life. The drugs, in a sense, the drugs chose her, and who supplied the drugs in the community. Well, we can go back. It's the government, of course, but Franklin is the guy in that community. He's the guy that in essence is responsible for Melanie being in her current condition. And again, we'll get into best scenes, but you could, again, at the end of that episode, similar, very similar faces. That if you look at Denzel's face in that scene with Ti versus Franklin's face in the last scene with his mom after he tells her that Melanie's on rock, and basically it's over. Very similar facial expressions. Both great performances from Denzel and of course Damson Eldris, Damson Eldris. But Melanie is gone. Like, she's hooked. Uh, she, the sense of college, her life as we know it will never be the same. It won't moving forward over the course, and you'll watch it, and you got a chance to see it even in season 4. In season 4, she ended up getting off drugs, of course, but there was no Spellman. And again, we will see how this, we're going to see what this does to her. We saw it, definitely saw it in this episode. So again, Melanie and Wanda go through a whole joyride as far as in terms of crackheads for a day, and just shows you the life of what this drug, what the crack and cocaine era, what that type of what it did to people. And again, we saw it with Wanda. Now we see it with Melanie. So Melanie was gone, and again, her character, her life within the show will never ever be the same, and this is squarely because of one Franklin Saint. That scene is Leon and Franklin. Basically tells Franklin Melanie is gone. If she's with Wanda, they find out through the young boy and Fatback. Well, through the young boy, Fatback gave us information about Maurice, but it was the young boy that provided the best information in terms of saying that he saw Melody with Wanda in the morning at 7:30 in the morning. Franklin again cannot see Melanie as this person. He can't see Melanie. He pisses Leon off by saying that Melanie ain't Wanda, and Melanie's strong, Wanda's weak, and what have you. And Leon says, "Hold on, I got feelings for Wanda." And then Franklin tries to lecture. Basically, Franklin basically uses it as a deflection to in terms of shitting on Wanda, to kind of take away from the fact that he can't deal with the reality that this not so much that it's his fault, this is his fault, but so much the fact that he just doesn't want to believe that Melanie would go this route. And Leon basically tells him, "Look, man, why do you think we're making all this money? This stuff is addictive. Once people get hooked, it's a wrap. It can happen to Wanda. It can happen to anybody. So it definitely can happen to Melanie." And Leon sets Franklin straight from that standpoint. Like, your girl is gone, in a sense. And Leon has had to live through this through watching how Wanda move and what happened with Wanda. And, Franklin similarly is going to go through he'll have to go through the same thing in regards to Melanie. So this scene was a great scene. Really, two friends, one friend in terms of Leon being just keeping it real with Franklin, telling him not so much what he wanted to hear, but what he needed to hear in that particular moment. Great scene. Um, Isaiah John was great in this picture. Was great in the scene in regards to just it wasn't he wasn't over. This was a restrained Leon. This wasn't Leon acting out emotionally or going over the top in regards to how we know Leon can get sometimes, especially during this season. No, this was a controlled, restrained Leon, and he let Franklin know, like, Melanie is gone. Franklin and Mel in the crack house, so they find out that Melanie's in the club in a crack house. Franklin goes in the crack house, takes her out, and again, Franklin has to see his own. This crack house is a product of what Franklin has done to the community, so he gets to see this. He gets to see this firsthand, and it's rare in a show or even in film, even in films where you will see a drug kingpin in a crack house. So they are kind of insulated from that world. They're not even around drugs. Most drug kingpins, and we saw this on The Wire, are not even around drugs. Okay, that's how insulated they are from that. For obvious reasons. You saw that in particular. Marlo and Avon were never around drugs, and it got to a point late in season one where Stringer wouldn't even let Avon do money runs anymore. So this is a rare thing in a television series or in a movie with a drug kingpin that they're in, that they are actually in around drugs or in a crack house, especially in a crack house. We've seen Franklin around drugs when he's making his drop offs and pickups with Teddy Mack. And again, Franklin just sees what the damage that has been done to Mel for himself. He pulls her out. She's of course fighting, and again, the Melanie that we've seen the first 3.5 seasons is no longer that girl is a young lady is long gone. Um, so Franklin has to deal with that. He takes her out, puts her in the car as she fights and screams and curses him out and what have you. And they drive her home. MVP. Now, at first, I went Melanie as the MVP because she did play. You know, I've been watching these roles from Pookie to Samuel Jackson and Jungle Fever and Holly Berry. It's the crackhead role is not easy by any stretch of imagination. I was gonna give it to Melly, but I switched it to Leon. Leon's the MVP because Leon tells Franklin what he needs to hear, and it's a reality check as far as it's bigger than just saying, "Hey, it's Melanie is if anybody if like what we're it, I think it was more to Leon telling Franklin. It was more to him just sharing the reality about Melody. This it was I think even a deeper message was, hey, look, man, this is we in the big time now. Like this shit, the shit that we're doing, they're selling is powerful, and you gotta realize, like, this is kind of like collateral damage for what we're doing. I think that was a bigger message. Again, Franklin hadn't had to deal with this ever in the series since the series started. Well, at season one, what his actions having this type of effect on someone he deeply cared about in this particular way. Of course, he's pissed off his mom and broke his mom heart at time with him being in the drug game. But even now, she's come around on that to a certain extent. Um, but having the drugs actually affect someone that he's close to in this particular way is something that he had not experienced, and now Leon basically tells him, this shit right here that we're doing, uh, has the kind of people are going to get hooked, and Leon keeps it real with him and tells him straight. And again, we see people in position of power have yes men around them all the time. We see it in athletics. We see it in life at times. Leon is not one of those guys. Like Leon, he has Franklin's back. He has Franklin's back to the end. He's a day one, but he's a great day one because again he will keep Franklin honest from that standpoint and not and really they work well in tandem because Franklin, they're kind of like a reverse Avon and Stringer. Like Leon has some Avon in him as far as the fight, and Franklin has some Stringer in him as far as being the thinker that he is. So Leon gets the MVP of this particular episode. Again, this was a very, very good episode leading up to what we're gonna see in episode 8, Hedgehogs. Um, so we certainly will look forward to that episode. And as that's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, I will see you next time as we look forward to episode season 3, episode 8, Hedgehogs. And I will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. So long.